So today we are going to be discussing about the do while and do until loops in SAS, how we can use it in SAS. So do while statement is majorly used to execute the statements while the condition is true. Okay, so let's go. This is about the syntax, how we can write do while. So here in the expression means where you have to write the condition, what kind of conditions you want it. Like say amount is less than 100 or greater than 100, where count is less than 20, like that kind of thing you have to write it in the expression. And you want to execute some additional statement based on the condition. If the while condition is true, then you have to execute the loop like this. So similarly, do until. So here, do while, do until. So until the condition is true, here you have to write the loop. Let's go to a couple of scenarios how we can use it. Like how we can use it. So conditionally iterative processing means we are executing the loop based on the condition. Based on the condition, the loop need the what are the condition that must be all the SAS statements that will be executed based on the condition. So the scenario is determine the number of years. So here we want to calculate the number of years. So it will take to an amount exceed $1 million. So if you invest around $5,000 and every year, the constant interest of 7.5. So here what we are going to do is we are going to calculate the number of years if you invest $5,000 and every year the constant interest rate of 7.5. How many years does it take to reach that goal at $1 million? For to reaching that 1 million, how many years does it take? So you need to calculate that particular years. So it means you want to execute the loop until the amount exceeds, until condition is true. So you have to execute that loop. Okay, yeah. So this is about the syntax how we can write it. Do data invest, do until capital amount is greater than $1 million. So here you have to write the amount is greater than 1 million. So until you have to calculate the number of years. So year equal to year plus one. Capital amount is every year you are incrementing, you are adding $5,000. And also automatically you are adding the interest amount to that particular year. So this is about the code. So first we have to write the do until. So before that you have to execute. So you have to use that what is the amount that you wanted. So until capital. Then you have to execute the loop. So year equal to year, calculate the year. So you have to use this formula plus. So here, this is how you can write year equal to year plus 1 capital. So if you execute the loop, it will give the number of years. So it takes 13 years. Here how much amount is there? So here 5,000. So it will take 13 years to reach that amount, 1 million. So it's 100,000 only. So this is 100,000, not 1 million. So if we increase this, so it takes 38 years to raise that. So now you want to see each and every year how much amount is there. Just add the output after the here. Add the output, you will see 38 all the every year how much it's there. Okay. So this is how we can use the do until loop. So in the do until loop, you can also use the index variable concept. The iterated do statement with the conditional clause. It means you can combine the do while and do until iteration with the do loop statement. So like you want to see the number of times you want to run it, like a certain number of times, or until condition is true. So suppose if the amount isn't reached, suppose if you're running more than 25 times, I want to stop it. Or if the amount is reaching $1 million within 25 month period, 25 times, less than 25 times, then you can stop the loop. Like means you can continue the loop until certain number of times, or you can stop the loop until the condition is satisfied. So to do these things, we have to use a do loop within index variable. So do index variable 1 to n by increment until the condition. Let's see the example. So let's determine the return of the account again. The same amount. Stop the loop if it's 25 years reach or more than 250,000 records. 50,000 means I want to run the loop until 25. If the amount is reaches 250,000, then I want to stop it from there. So I don't want to go to up to 25. But our loop our statement need to be executed 25 times. So here, so 1 to 10. So here we are writing do 1 to 25 until the capital amount is greater than 0. So it reaches it's with the so year plus 1, you have to ignore this one. So what happened? It's increment every time. So first year, second. So it reaches up to 21 years on it to reach that particular amount. So it's not executed until 25 times. So this is how we can use it like with conditionally executing the particular statement. So this is about the do loop, and similarly while loop. So while condition n is less than or equal to until while the condition is true, it means it will execute the loop until n equal to 5. Initially with 0, so we can put it as 0 like this. It's simple one, so it's nothing here. So once you understand the until one, so do loop, so it's easy. See, let's have a number of times it's displaying. So Yeah, so next one is nested do loop. Nested means whenever you say nested, loop again within the loop. There's a loop is there, that loop within that loop, one more do loop is there, like called as a nested do loop. Loops, not only nested, any loop, so nested case statement, anything. When a loop you are executing within that, so nested do loops are the loops within the loops. When you use a nested do loop, use a different index variables in both the loops. Means whenever you're using any index variable for each do loop, you have to use a different index variable. Like we used I, j, k, like those things. So you can use different index variable for each and every different individual do loop. So make sure that each do statement has corresponding end statement. So like means whenever you're using nested do loop, for every do statement, you have to write end. So let's take some example here. So create one observation per year for 5 years, showing that earning if you invest 5,000 per year at the interest rate, annual compound interest. So you want they are asking create 5 years of data for each year. So here's 1 to 5 means I want to execute the loop 5 years. Each year the cap now within each year I want to create one more quarterly value. That means in each year how many number of quarters. Those many number of quarters I have to write it. So 1 to 5, it's a 1 do loop, and within each year, 4 different quarters. Each quarter wise you want to create it and write out. So when we like this, what happened for each year, 4 different quarters output, you will write in the output. So this is about the nested do loop. So you can see more than nested do loops. So here just took the directly amounts, but when you have the data set where you have to take the amounts, then you can see this. This bag means in the bank data set how many number of records are there. For each record, the certain number of times the loop will be executed. Suppose in the bank we have 3 records. It means first 3 loops, 5, 4 like this. So this is about how each and every time how it will be executed. Yeah, so this is about the do loop. So any questions on the loops? Okay. So we'll move to the next one is Sas arrays. So the Sas arrays, what is the use of Sas arrays? How we can use it? So the Sas array is majorly used to do the repetitive calculations, create the new variable, to perform the table lookup, and to rotate the SAS dataset. So whenever you require any of these four, 5 scenarios, you may directly use the SAS arrays. So it means you want to transpose the data, you want to table lookup, you want to create a new variable, you want to do any repetitive calculations. Then we have to use arrays. So what exactly the SAS array? So the definition of the SAS array is it's a temporary grouping of SAS variables that are arranged in a particular order. It means you are taking some temporary grouping of SAS variables. Temporary grouping. It means during the execution phase only you are creating groups and processing those records, those columns. So that are arranged in the particular order. So this temporary grouping is identified by some array name. So whenever you say any particular group, you means you are asking, you need to give some group name to this particular array. So that particular name we call as array name. And within that array, within the group, each and every variable we call as elements. Okay, so within that each and every group, within the group of array, each and every value variable we call as elements. So it exists only the during execution of the current data set. So it's not only whenever you are using this array, it will be exist only that particular data step. So again, this particular array or grouping name, it's not a variable. You're not going to create any variable. It's a temporary grouping only. So in each variable in an array is called as element, and identify the subscript that represent the position of the element in array. So this is how we can use it in an array and within the array grouping and elements. So let's take a couple of examples here. So before that, so the syntax for how you are going to write in the Sas level, how you are going to define this array. The syntax is this array is a keyword and the name. So this name can be any variable name, like any variable name that follow the rule control variable name rule controls. You have to give that, and the subscript. That subscript you have to give that how many number of value that you are going to create. Subscript nothing but if you want to create a 5 variables, the file thing you have to write it. So these variables are character numerical, and each and every variable how much length you are going to defining an array elements. So directly you can define some elements, or you can take the existing data sets. And if you can also directly give some initial values. So the array statement must contain all numerical or all character elements. It must be used to determine an array before the array name can be referenced. So whenever you're giving any array or grouping array, that particular group is either numerical or character. But you cannot mix this a particular group as a character or numeric both. Okay, so it must be defined in an array before the array can be referenced. So before you are everything in it must be defined it. So it creates a variable if they do not have already exist in the variable. So suppose if the particular group is not there, those variables are not there, it creates in the PDB. So it means this is only the compilation statement only. Yeah, so these are the syntax. So this is a syntax. So write an array statement that defines the 4 quarterly contribution variables as elements of array. So array syntax, and this is a contrib and 4. It's nothing but it's a array name is a contrib, and in the elements we are is called as is 4. It means we are creating 4 different variables with the array grouping name called contrib. And all those 4 variables you are defining as this one, quarter 1, quarter 3, quarter 4. So these variables are already present in the existing data set. So you are using that. So this is how we can use it. Array name, array references, like this. So these variables, you can define anything. Variables that are elements of array need not have the similar related number names. So to process the array, because you are using the dimension number of values, right? Within the dimension, within the array grouping variable, you are giving some subscript of value. So to process those array, again you have to use a do loop, because there you are just defining certain number of times. To process those number of times, you need to use a do loop concept again. So array processing can often occur within the do loop only. So an iterative do loop that processes an array has the following form. Do index variable 1 to number of elements in array and statement. So this is how we can use it. So let's take examples. So first you define the array, quarter 1 to 4. Means you have 4 different variables, right? So to process those 4 different variables, you have to use the do loop. To each quarter 1 to 4, the contribution of quarter equal to this one. Okay. Let's take some example here. So employees contribute an amount to a charity in every quarter. So an employee is contributing some amount to a charity in every year. So the SAS dataset contains the contribution dataset of each employee. So the employer supplements each contribution by 25%. whatever the amount that you're giving, out of that amount, the employer will give the additional 25 percentage to that amount. It will add it to that particular charity. So calculate the each employee's quarterly contribution, include the company supplement. So this is a data set. So now you want to calculate. So after adding with the employer percentage. Okay, let's see. So normally what you are doing each quarter, right? You are calculate. So quarter one equal to quarter one into 1.25. If you specify, if you multiply with 1.25 means 25% will be added to the existing amount. So then this is about normal procedure. But if it's only 4 quarters, like if you are going to do it weekly, you want to calculate for 52 weeks, then it's very difficult to write all the 52 statements. Then again you have to use the do loop with arrays. So contribution 1, 4 different quarters, 1 to 4. This is what? This is our simple statement. When you say contribution 1, that refers to the quarter 1 variable. That quarter 1 variable, what is the value is that will be substituted. So this is how the loop will be executed. If it's out of range, then it's come out of the range. So it's go. Yeah, this is about the calculating, adding the employer control. So you want to show me how it will execute here? Are you good with this? Any questions here? Okay. Okay. So now creating the variables. So now let me just process that loop. Now how you are going to create the variables with arrays. Okay. So it's the same amount. Now you are going to create a new variable with this particular value. So the variable is percentage. So you already have the total. So means you contribution 4 different variables. So either you can define quarter 1 hyphen quarter 4. It will do that, or you can directly do that with the individual values. So when you say percentage 4, it means to automatically create a 4 different variable like percentage 1, percentage 2, percentage 3, percentage 4. So percentage of quarter 1, it means percentage 1. The secondary statement to create the 4 numerical variables like this. Percentage 1 equal to, because if you don't specify any numerical variables, default variables will be considered as Sas. If you specify that, it will also use only those. If you don't specify it, by default take the percentage. What are the variable? This is how you can calculate it. So here the total we calculate as like this. So calculate the difference in each employee's actual contribution from one quarter to the next. The next example is we are creating the variable, the different scenario. So here 4 quarters. Now you want to calculate the difference between the first quarter, next quarter, one quarter to next. You have to calculate the differences between that. Out of 4 variables, you will see only difference between 3 variables. You will get also only the difference. You can calculate the only for 3 differences. 4 minus 3, 2, 3 minus 2, 2 minus 1 only. So right? So like this you have to calculate it. So this is how we can use it. Differences. Do I want to throw difference of I equal to contribution of I plus 1 minus contribution of I. So this is how the evaluated backend. So it's this how you can create the variables. So The next is, since we already suppose here till now we discussed it, we saw that some variables already there in the data set. We are using those variables and calculate the differences, like quarter one, quarter two, quarter three, quarter four. So, but I don't have any new variables, but I want to assign some initial values to those new variables and subtract that values to each and every variable that's from the data set. So donate data set is a 4 quarters information. Now you are calculating the differences. To calculate the differences, previously what happened in the previous example, we calculated the first quarter, one quarter to the next. Here we're calculating the some difference, which already defines some goal. Means some amount from this particular amount need to be subtracted this. It's like from quarter one, I want to subtract 10. From quarter two, I want to subtract 5. Some values need to be subtracted for all these quarters. How you are going to means you have to define those values that you are going to subtract with the array name and assign those values to those variables. Like see, so here this is a contribution, but actual goal is this much. So goal 1 to goal 4. So means we are creating 4 different goals. And for all these different goals, you are assigning some initial values. It means you want to calculate the difference between the what is the actual contribution, what is the goal. Okay, so difference is quarter contribution of quarter minus goal. So this is how the compilation will work. First, what are the different variables are there in the data set? You can go to the 4 different quarters, 4 differences and 4 goals and their values in quarter. So when you run the first variable, so these are the drop variables that we specified it. So this is how we can get the results after doing all the calculations. So these arrays will majorly used whenever you want to process the data in the loops. Okay. So the next example is you have to perform the table lookup. So you can use a keyword called temporary. Instead of specifying the variable names when you create an array to a temporary. So it means every time you are defining the variables and dropping, like you are defining the goal and dropped, you define the right. To avoid those things, you can just use a keyword called temporary. So when you specify the temporary, it won't create any new variable in the dataset level backend. So it cannot create it, and it will not be. You don't need to drop it. So means if we specify the temporary, automatically the backend some temp1, temp2 like the backend will be created and automatically drop those variables. So the next topic is rotating the SAS dataset. So what is mean by rotating? It means transposing the data from rows to column, column to rows. Okay. So with the SAS, the arrays you can do that, but there are some different other techniques are there. So with the other technique means there is a procedure called proc transpose. With that you can able to transpose the data. But with the arrays also you can do the same kind of action. So whatever you can do the transpose you can do here. Whatever you are doing here, you can also do the same thing in the proc transpose. So in the with arrays it will be a little bit complex is there, but when it comes to the transpose procedure, there you can simply specify which variable you want to drop it, which variable you want to use the by variable. So here you have to define one differently. Let's see this. So this is my data set. Okay. There are 4 different quarters. Now I want to create each ID quarter wise. This amounts need to be in one column. Instead of 4 different columns, I want to see one column. It's a quarters, which quarter is here and what is the value. So this is what I wanted. This is how I want to create it. How you are going to do that? Just use the arrays. So array, what are the different variables that you wanted? You read it and you define it. So simply use amount equal to contribution. So amount, you're not creating any group of elements. You're creating single variable. So in the single variable, each time when you process the loop, the value need to be stored for each quarter. So is it clear? So because sometimes you may need to use only this particular rotating, remaining things it's very rarely use it, but yeah, this particular rotating concept. So you may require sometimes you may use in the programming. You need to understand majorly sometimes. Suppose if already existing program is there. So if you want, if you know the arrays, then you can able to understand those programming and try to do that. But if you don't know anything in arrays, it's very difficult to understand that one. So how it's defined, how it's used. So this is exactly what's happened in the backend. So like this, we tried all the observations. Okay. Yeah. So with this one, so arrays completed. So any questions in the arrays, then we can go move. If no questions, then we'll move to the next topic. So these arrays, it's not mandatory to learn it. But if anybody use array programming in your existing Sas script, that you need to understand, you have to learn it. So without using arrays also you can do the programming. It's arrays is not mandatory, but do while and do you have to learn it more. So majorly there is also some alternatives are there with array for arrays. So you can use those alternative programming, that is easy, but for that also you have to thoroughly learn it. So if you practice more, then you'll get an idea how you can use other techniques in the program. So, but if why I explain in arrays is like this, you want to see if any existing programs are using, then you want to understand how it will be used. That's it. Yeah. So we'll go to the next topic. Yeah. So this is another topic is the SAS variable lists. So what is mean by SAS variable list? So a SAS variable is an abbreviated method for referring a list of variable names. So instead of specifying all the 100 variables in the keep statement or in a drop statement or keep option, drop options, somewhere wherever you're using. So instead of specifying all the variables, you can specify first and last in between that you can use it. So it's nothing but it's a variable list. Instead of using all the variables, you can by using some shortcuts, you can define all the variables and use it. So there are 4 different lists are there. There is a number range list, name range list, name prefix list, special SAS name list. So when you say number range list, so what happens whenever you are writing the variable names like variable 1, variable 2, variable 3 up to variable 10. So instead of specifying all the 10 variables, just simply use a variable 1 hyphen variable 10. So it will take all the 10 variables from first to 10. So that is called as number range list. So like how you can use it? Variable 1 hyphen a variable n. N is a number. So, but here the variable should be in order. So even though if you don't see any particular number, but it will treat the data from first to last. But here the starting value, the x should be common. The last value, 1, that is should be different, but remaining the first letters is common. Then only you can able to read it, the number range list. For the name range list, specify all the variables ordered as they in the program data vector from X to A inclusive. So it means if you specify the double hyphen, whatever the name that you have it from the variables, from first variable to last variable, if you specify the first variable, if you specify the last variable, whatever the order is there in the data set level, it will take all those variables from first variable to last variable. Okay, and the numerical and character, X numerical, X character. So it means if you want to only read only numerical data, out of all the 100 observation, I want to see only numerical. X numerical A. It means it will take only numerical values, numerical variables from the particular column list. Similarly, X to character means only character variable. These majorly used whenever you want to display the output, whenever you want to read only specific variables, whenever you want to drop specific variables. So whenever you are going to calculate the sum or mean, average, those values, then we use these range lists. So the next one is name prefix. So this is very powerful. So very useful in regularly we use it. Name prefix. It means, so if you want to drop a particular variable starting with a D, let's give some example here. So do we have any marks, status set? So let's take this is a data set. So it has variable like this. Now you want to drop all the variables which start with the map. Then use drop equal to m colon. So what it does, it will drop all the variables with m, starting with m. See, the first data marks data set we have only one variable m2. All the variable has been dropped. Or you want to keep only that one, so use keep. So only you can see only those marks. And to do the sum, you want to do the total equal to sum of m. It means it will do the total for all the variables with starting with m. On the numerical variables, it will do the sum. See? So this is how the range list will be useful in the real-time programming. So instead of this, you can, if you want to, you have to specify all the m1, m2, m3 like that. So it will take you have to specify like that. So sometimes if you don't know that, then you can specify like these codes with that. So this name prefix is majorly very regularly we used it. Okay. The next one is special SAS name list. So whenever you specify all, it will take all the variables. So only character variables you want to see character, only numerical variables you want to see the numerical. So this particular thing very useful. So last two are the majorly used in a real-time programming. Whenever you are working in a particular project. So in this one, any questions? Yeah. So we'll move to the next topic. So this is ODS is another one of the topic here. It's output delivery system. So after this one, we'll move to the functions tomorrow. So means in the next class, we'll start with the SAS functions like character functions, numerical functions, those. So before that, I'll start with this output delivery system. So what exactly the meaning of output delivery system? Some we call it as SAS ODS or output delivery system. So if anybody calling ODS, it means it's output delivery system. Nothing but where exactly you want to write the data. Means what kind of, suppose you have some report. That report need to be written in a particular file. What kind of file format that you want to write it generally. So generally everybody will, suppose if you have the SAS, you can open it in SAS data and everything. But if your SAS is not installed in from your machine, how you can open those PDF files? That are how you can generate those PDF files with the SAS. Because in the PDF or .csv, this will be everybody will have it internally in each and every machine. So how you are going to create these SAS data sets? It means you want to export this SAS data set information to PDF file and share that report to everybody. It means whatever the SAS data, whatever the report that you have, those data need to be created in the PDF file or CSV file or XML file or CSV or text file or RTF file. It means whatever the file format that is there, you want to write that data to the particular format, even XML. It means how you want to see that particular output, in which format you want to see that. In which particular format you want to see those results. That is a major purpose. By using this ODS only you can do that. Okay, so let's go to let's go to the couple of examples here. So it's a simple one, but it's not very hot topic. So here this is a SAS report with the ODS. ODS we can create output, HTML and file and all the printers. So first thing is HTML. Okay, so to create the HTML report, we have to use ODS HTML. So see here, ODS. So to create report in a particular file, what is the file format you want to write it? That particular file. Keyword you have to write. For HTML, you have to write HTML. So where you want to write it, you have to specify the file. And give the file name. HTML or HTML. So what are things? So it's depending upon HTML. So once you specify it, then you have to write which data set you want to write into that particular file. So there is a project called proc print. So we'll discuss in the coming classes, but the proc print is majorly used to print the data, whatever is the data that you have. Whatever the SAS data set is there, that data set you want to print into the particular file. Then we use proc print. Proc print data equal to one. So once you specify the HTML file, then you have to close that particular HTML. Otherwise, if you don't close it, every output will be written to that particular HTML file only. So it means you have to start with that and you have to close that particular option. You can see here, go there, the class is created. So if you click here, it will open the Internet Explorer, so you can see the results here. So this observation number is a default output in a SAS and particular procedure, but if you don't want it, you can drop it. But this is exactly how you can see in the HTML file. So because this particular thing is very, sometimes they want to see the graphical results in HTML, then in that case you have to use this ODS HTML. Okay, but yeah, whenever you open it, you have to close this HTML. That you have to remember that. So this is about the by using the HTML SAS procedure, some SAS coding. But without doing this also, only for the HTML, you can create. You can, if you are using the SAS Windows, so each and every output that you want to save, means save that in or create in a HTML format. Then we have to do in the settings. Go to the SAS program here, tools, customize. Not customize. So option, system, preferences. See here, in the preferences you can see this one, like number of entity that you got to keep it in the last recently user list. This one here. And here there is a results tab. You can see this results tab. You can see multiple options, listing and HTML. So by default, the output will be listed output. That is called as this kind of output. Now, whatever the result that you are seeing in the output, that we call as a listed output by default here. If you want to change that output in HTML, or if you want to both, you can check it. If you don't want it, just use it. So create HTML folder like this. So use the work folder. By default, the output will be saved. If you click this HTML, whatever the output that you are generating, that will be saved in it will be generated in the HTML file that will be stored in the work location. So this is about one of the options that you can set it in your, if you are using the Windows. But normally, generally, nobody will use this HTML option. It's because it's a time-taking process. It will do, instead of listing, if you use the output, so it will be hanged. Sometimes the output is huge, it will be hanged. Okay, so this is how you can generate the list HTML output. So every time whenever you open the HTML, you have to close it. So this is about the HTML. So similarly, we do have like different type of files like PDF, Word document, XML file, right? CSV. So these are all the different kind of files you can also generate it simply by changing their words. Suppose if you want to see the report in a PDF, just change that into PDF, change the extension here, change the keyword here again. Wherever you have HTML, you have to change it to PDF. So it means the output will be generated in the PDF file format. The PDF file. So this one. So here, one of the things you need to understand, like once you create the PDF file, there is a short links will be created, like a short links. Suppose if you're generating output some 100 pages, the particular procedure or something, then if you click it here, that will directly go to the navigate to the particular output. So this also is applicable in here. You can see same thing in the results tab. Whatever the results you have it, see, you can see it's creating the two different files like listing, and dataset. So if we don't want to see the report in a listing, just use ODS listing off. So when you specify ODS listing, then the listing output will not be generated. Only the PDF will be generated. So this is how we can use a listing. But by default, ODS listing is on. If you off it, you don't see anything in the output folder, output file. So it will not see any output in the output file. So that's the reason by default it's on. So if you are using any other thing, just use those and on kind of thing. So this is about the PDF. So now if you want to create a Word or we can create a RTF, then use a RTF. Just change wherever you have the PDF, you have to change it to RTF. So it will open here. Yeah. So this is about how it look like with the RTF file format. It's open in the by default because there is no like a Word, so you have to use as a RTF. It will open in the Word document. Yep. Any questions here? Closed. Is it clear? This one, these two, PDF and RTF. Now, similarly, we do have like CSV. You can use a CSV. So it means it will create the file in a CSV format. So this particular ODS is very powerful when you go to the whenever you want to see the results in a particular file. So normally this particular thing will be used in a real time. So because you cannot, no everybody don't have access to see those SAS data sets. So whenever anybody asks me, I want to, can you export this file in a CSV or text file like that? Then you have to use the ODS concept. Okay. So this is how you can see the results in a CSV. Similarly, there is another format called XML. Okay. So some people they want, because whenever everybody using the XML coding, they need the file. If they want to see the results in XML, then you want to create an XML. So this XML can be open in the notepad only. So this is how the report will be generated. It's how the results see in the HTML file. Okay. So these are the different methods that we can create the what kind of reports in a particular file format whenever the client is or somebody requested. So ODS here. So you can use the CSV or CSV all. So both will have the same results. So you can do the same. Okay. So we see like HTML, PDF, ODF, XML, all the different kind of file format that you have used it. So any questions on this for this class? So I'll stop here. I will move to the next one is SAS functions. So what are the different SAS functions we have? What are the different categories? So all those we'll discuss it in the next coming classes. Next of two classes is SAS functions and the data management. Both will be completed to almost next week. So if any questions, just let me know. So otherwise we'll stop here and we'll start the new topic to our next class. Yeah, thank you, Avana. Thank you.